mean, like Samuel Clemens or Mark Twain said once, education stops when education starts when schooling ends.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things that also happens to us when we're educated through the system is that we have to deprogram ourselves, because a lot of these intellectuals in the universities and so forth, in all of the schools, they went to school and then they went back to school and that was their career.
Yeah, they never experienced the real world ever.
Exactly. That's why they can't. That's why they often get it wrong. And yet these guys are training the leaders, and people go to school and then they come out and they realize this is fucked, man. This is not right. This is not. This is not the real world, right? This is not what I'm experiencing. You told me that it was like this, this, and this, but it's not. It's like it's like this clicky based, sort of, I don't know what you call it. I mean, the way people are, right? I mean, you know how it is. It's in workplaces. There's all this kind of competition that goes on below the surface. Everything is smooth, right? It all looks smooth, but you always have these guys, who's some kind of an adversary. Adversary. I don't know the word, but yeah. So you have this individual, these people that you encounter, or you have an employer who has no integrity or wants you to do things. I mean, I had a guy once years ago. I sold printing. Okay, before I started my publishing company, I sold printing for a while, and there was one guy. He offered me this big salary. Okay, like he wanted to get me from my boss because we used to sub things out to him. Okay, so I had a young family at the time, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to jump on this. Because he offered me like almost double my current salary at the time. Well, not double. Let's say one third more. But still, it was a lot of money, right? It was like an extra $1,000 a month at that time, right? So I think I was making a couple grand. I'm talking going back quite a year. It was quite a few years ago, maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Not 30 years ago now. Time flies quick. But anyhow, so this guy offers me this. So I take the position. I mean, he had better presses and he had better equipment. And he seemed to have his shit together. So I thought, okay, this guy's going to be good, because the guy I was with was quite disorganized. So I jumped ship and I went for the higher salary. So I'm working for the guy, and I'm doing marketing stuff for him. We're doing like direct mail and all kinds of things, which I know how to do. I was doing all that, right? And I was getting quite a number of appointments and doing my things. But there's always a lag when it comes to sales. You go out. I mean, I was in sales for a number of years, and you go out and you do your work and you bust your ass and you do your appointments. And after about 2 weeks, sometimes, especially in the beginning, you think, well, what am I doing here? Because there's nothing coming in. Yeah. And then you get around the third week or the fourth week, and boom, it comes in like crazy, right? So but it's just a lag, right? And people have to think about it. They got to get approvals, because I was selling business to business stuff. So so you get that lag that goes on in sales. But this guy hires me for this job, and I'm working for him. And about 2 months later, he says to me, "Well, I want you to go after your former employer's customers. You know who they are." Which I did. I knew all his customers. I knew who was the biggest. And he says, "You go and you get me every one of them, and bring them to me." I said, "No, I'm not doing that." And this is my defect, right? No, I'm not doing that.
Exactly. Too much integrity. It's like you don't want to screw over people who've helped you before.
Well, I mean, I left the guy for money. Okay. I mean, I had a family, so I had a reason to do it, my personal benefit. Okay. Yeah. But it doesn't mean because I'm pursuing something for my personal benefit, doesn't mean I'm going to rip off another guy who was a good guy. Yeah. He was a decent guy. He was an honest guy. Okay, he was disorganized and so forth, and he had his issues. But I wasn't going to go steal all his customers and put the guy into bankruptcy. I mean, I don't know, but there's a lot of people who live with that. Now, one of the chapters I go on in the book is about psychopaths, and it's like I've had different situations happen to me in my business life over the years. I had one instance that I put into the book about where I dealt with a mortgage broker. And there comes a bunch of trouble from my experience, because I've never dealt with one who was straight, quite frankly. I've had nothing but bad experience with mortgage brokers in my business things. Oh yeah, I mean, I found it much better to arrange my own financing. It's just from my own business experience, okay? Because I find, once again, the middleman, He's always out for himself.
Of course.
Right? He's an interloper. Yeah. So anyhow, this guy, I mean, ripped me off for thousands of bucks. He scammed me on this contract. He sent me to the scammy lawyer friend of his and says to me, "Don't worry about it. It's just a routine contract thing." And I should have known better because I've been in business for 20 some years at that point. But I thought, you know what? You're right. It is just a pretty simple little contract. We're just doing this. It was just a balloon financing arrangement. So the guy rips me off. So I end up going to court, and this shit goes on for 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, but at some point your money runs out. So I'm a pretty smart guy. So I start studying law, especially now with the internet, how to do this, how to do the documents and so forth. And I fight these cases and I win. And I win again and again and again. Okay. But I don't win any money, which is the bummer of it all. And I had a lawyer at the beginning of this, and he said to me, he says, "Mark, do it if you want to harass this guy, if you want to make trouble for him, you want to get some kind of revenge on him, because it's going to drive him crazy for years. It's going to drag him through court, right?" But he says, I says, at the end of the day, you're not going to see any money, which I kind of said, well, maybe not. So anyhow, at the end of the day, I didn't really see. I mean, I got some small victories, like, a few thousand here, a few thousand there, but nothing much, nothing that compensated me even close, nothing that even paid for my personal legal costs of myself. And I've had a number of dealings, and I go over some of this stuff in the book with lawyers, and I show the lack of integrity with the legal system, with the lawyer system. I mean, we're talking about family law, for example. Well, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yep.
Okay. One of the things, I was involved with a men's rights group at one point. Okay. It was the Council for Equal Parenting, they were called. And I was a goodwill ambassador for them. So what I did was, just in my small little bit, I met with my local member of parliament, we call it here, okay, which is like your local congressman, and presented him our point of view. So we actually had a member of the parliament support this legislation, okay, and he brought in a law. It was anyhow, it's in the book anyways. But anyhow, so I went and did my presentation to these guys, and then the law actually came before Parliament after there was an election in between, and then the law came back up. It was on a new bill, and then so it was reintroduced, and then all these people who were supposed to be in support of it, they had like a Parliament. The government said that they were going to have a free vote on this issue. They had a free vote on it, and it was actually a law that made men and women on the onset of divorce equal parents. That's it. If you want to take custody away from one or the other, you have to prove that something has been done, like I said, something criminal, something horrendous, right? Or some kind of abuse or mistreatment. That's where the onus was. Otherwise, the assumption of equality was there. The law got defeated. Man. And at the end of the day, one of the reasons that was cited was that the Canadian Association of Barristers objected to it because they thought it was not good for the children.
What?
Yeah. This association represents the lawyers, the judges, and all the rest. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's a total conflict of interest. Yeah. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we got to stop looking at the legal system as impartial. That's part of the awakening that people need to have, and that I hope my book is going to give people. Yeah. Okay, is that part of that awakening is to realize these lawyers are out for themselves. They're a middleman. Okay, this whole divorce stuff that goes on, all this monkey business that people have to go through fighting over what's already there. I mean, your kids already belong to you, right? So why are you taking them away? What are you accusing me of? I must have done something bad. Oh, you're a good parent, but we're just going to give it to the mother because this way she gets some money. Well, that's not right. That's not right, man. I mean, fathers love their children as much as mothers do.
Yeah.
But you often get some kind of a wingnut out there who basically came from an abusive family. I shouldn't call him a wingnut, but let's say someone who's disadvantaged in their life, who becomes an activist in some of these movements, and then villainizes all men. I mean, my father was not perfect, neither was my mother, and I think most people will have things, that they could bring up. But the thing is, their intentions were there, and their love is there, and their caring for their children is there.
Yeah.
But I mean, so why do these guys get into this thing with the lawyers? I mean, because they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money, and the thing is though, this would, along with political correctness and social Marxism, is essentially destroying society. Western society is on a serious decline here.
Yeah.
We're going down the tubes fast.
Exactly.
Okay? I mean, China's one child policy is our one child society here. But China did it for a reason, because they were overpopulated. Here, they just did it because the reality is people can't afford to have kids. Because I meet so many people. I met them, a young couple at a party recently, and they had one child, and I said, "Hey, are you going to have more kids?" "No." I says, "Well, why not?" He says, "We'd love to. We really would love to, but we can't have more kids because we can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford the daycare costs. We both work. It takes 2 salaries to pay for our house, and and we're struggling." I mean, and that is the reality of people, right?
Yep.
That is the reality. I mean, but so this whole working class thing, and then you listen to the politicians and the elites, and it's like, don't you guys get it? Don't you guys get it that that the people are just like really struggling? A lot of them are hanging on by the tips of their fingers. They're like 1 month away from homelessness.
Yeah.
I mean, don't they get it? And that's on 2 salaries, right? And you have this inflation in the economy, and wages are not keeping up with it. So they just keep battering them down, battering down the working people. I mean, do the elites just hate the working class who've made their money, who did the work for them that they've benefited from? Do they just hate us so much that they just want to beat the crap out of us? Like, it just seems like that from a working class perspective. So, I mean, you get people who've been going through this, and they've been going through this for a long time. And then the election comes up, and here comes Donald Trump, and he says, "You know what? I understand your problems." But you look at him and go, "Well, this guy's an elitist guy, though. He's a billionaire." And that's what the left gets hooked on. He's a billionaire. But you know what? What Donald Trump did that very few of the others did, he acknowledged their pain.
Yeah, exactly.
And people recognize that, and he said, "You know what? Yeah, and maybe if you can stop some of the immigration, and maybe if you can stop some of the war stuff, and we can do like the United States was prior to World War II." I mean, the U.S. got into World War II 2 years after the war, right? 2 years after the war had already started. I mean, Canada was in there for 2 years because they were right away, like kind of a semi-British colony.
Of course.
And so they were in there for 2 years before, and then comes in the U.S. with its fresh troops, which was great, and but they stayed out. And why'd they stay out? Because they didn't want to get involved, and it was great, and it was smart, and they probably shouldn't have got involved because the Russians would have done the job anyways. Unfortunately for my German ancestors, but I mean, these guys had to be brought down, But I mean, what we have today is not much better. It's social Marxism, and in some ways, it's even worse because it's killed more people in the long run. And it always starts out as utopia and ends up as repression. It always starts out. I mean, I've read Marx. I've read the Communist Manifesto, and I've read Das Kapital, and I've done it on my own.
Wow.
And you know what? It sounds nice. It sounds nice, but you know what? It's not reality. It's a fantasy. We've had so many people to try utopias, and what happens is that if I don't like your communist utopia, you end up, putting a gun to my head. Or if I speak out against it and point out its flaws, just like what's happening now, if you point out the flaws with the universities and what's going on with political correctness, right away they want to shoot you down and call you a Nazi and a fascist and a this, that, and the other thing, a racist and whatever. I mean, just labeling you. I mean, the weakest argument is always the one that resorts to insult. That's been my experience.